Happy Motivational Monday. My name is Kira. I am your host, and I am so excited to have you here for today's session. We are in our second out of only 3 weeks, at least, of Motivational Monday for remote slash flex work and productivity month. And we do have our deep dive in the last week of the month, which is where we take all of these micro moments that we've been developing during Motivational Monday over the month. And we take it all, we take that deep dive. We really look at remote slash flex work, burnout, and a lot of the topics we've hit kind of high level throughout Motivational Monday. We start to dive in even deeper. So I'm so excited that you all are here. Drop 111 in the chat if you're brand new. Drop 222 in the chat if you are a lover of life guides and you're back for more. Welcome back to so many of you, and welcome for the first time, Barbara. We're so excited to have you. So today's session is a really exciting session. It's actually about how to take breaks that make you more productive. The reason why this conversation is so important is because we learned last week that scheduling those breaks is incredibly important. We talked with Mickey specifically about how do we take those breaks? How do we specifically schedule it into our calendar? What are some of the thoughts behind maybe why we don't take breaks? And today we're diving even deeper into micro breaks, traditional breaks, and a little bit more of the topic of, hey, how do we actually take breaks that make us more productive? Because I think that there's a narrative that taking breaks isn't possible for some of us, or we tell ourselves that we can't. And you can drop 333 in the chat if you relate to that. If you're like, I, in theory, know that maybe I should be taking breaks, but I do not, or there's something holding me back, or I feel like the to-do list is never ending. Whatever it is, I feel like a lot of us can relate to that. Working remote or working hybrid, it's very different than being in a physical location. So I'm incredibly excited to have Rhakiya here. She is one of our guides here at LifeGuides. So you have these group sessions, which are where you can come get a little bit of a taste for the work that we do in our guides. And essentially the bread and butter and the juicy part of what we do at LifeGuides is we've got guides who have partnered with an organization that you work with, or an organization that you're partnered with in some way, where you have access to our guides to help you navigate life. So some of the topics we've covered over this year: stress and anxiety management, sleep and hydration, women's well-being, self-esteem and self-image, and now remote work. These are all topics where someone can help you, because typically we know where we're at and we know where we want to go. We just don't know how to get there. So it's our guides who help us build that roadmap to getting there. So Rhakiya is one of our guides. She actually came in during our sleep and hydration month and has written a child's book about sleep. She's done a lot of scientific studies on sleep as well. But today she's here for remote work. And her superpower is that she empowers early career managers to navigate challenges, build confidence, and foster high-performing teams through practical skills and a growth mindset. So thank you so much, Rhakiya, for being here. We're so excited to have you. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, your experience with remote or flex work, and why this conversation is important to you?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Kira, for that warm welcome. And I want to say hello to everyone. I am so happy to be here with you on this Motivational Monday to talk about remote work and flex work productivity, which is something that I'm very passionate about. So, a little bit about me: I'm a life sciences and healthcare consultant. I work 75% to 100% of the time remotely, traveling nationally across the US. I come from a traditional work culture. I have 30 years in corporate America. So I spent 20 plus years working in office. And then I took the leap to remote work and had a very rude awakening on finding balance and how to maintain my productivity during that time. I started planning to become a remote worker maybe about 2015, in about 2015, and I didn't actually do it until 2018. And I thought the key pillars were to be autonomous, to work with integrity, and to know how to set up boundaries. And I said, okay, I know how to do all those things. I'm good to go. What I found out had me laying flat on my back in a hotel room with a pinched sciatic nerve because I didn't uh, implement those boundaries that I had planned on doing. And I had to go see a chiropractor to get it fixed. And then I learned very quickly that I needed to re energize myself and maintain my well being, whether it was taking vitamins, learning to stretch, hydrate, whatever it was that I needed to do, and to start putting some of those practices that were at my disposition into work for me.
I did not know that part of your story, but
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of us could relate to that. Maybe not the exact experience of a pinch sciatica, but that idealized expectation of working from home, working remotely. You've got location freedom, you've got time freedom, and
Mhm.
those things are true, but those things are only true if you've created the structures that give you the time to be focused and then the time to be free. And it sometimes it sounds like maybe you were on and working and all of it in your head 24/7 and that's what led to the hyper experience of stress in your body.
Yes, absolutely. Within 1 month's time, it was, and I was very, very healthy. I was healthy. I had no health problems whatsoever. I had never seen a chiropractor a day in my life. And when I found myself on that hotel room floor, I learned quickly and I said, okay, there has to be some sort of balance, some sort of well being balance incorporated into my day to day. And that's when I started putting out feelers and watching what some of my colleagues were doing. Those emails, and I'm sure a lot of our members here, they may get those emails. Hey, there's a well-being this or well-being that, or, let's do a mindfulness focus, or let's, if you learn how to breathe, or let's talk about, like you had to talk about hydration, the importance of hydration or sleeping well. And I used to ignore them all. And then I said, hey, maybe I need to stop. And you know what? Accept this invite and take the 15 minutes to learn about how to take care of myself so I can continue doing what I love and doing it well.
I love that you realized that it was an invitation for you because most of the organizations that our members who are here watching this call work with, they have life guides because their organizations understand the significance of well-being and how when we have a culture of well-being, when we have a culture of belonging, when we feel like we matter to the organization more than just the bottom dollar, then we see an increase in all levels of life. And you and I actually talked about this in our planning session, where having that sense of belonging actually is so important to your well-being and to working in an organization and having that longevity. Found that when employees feel like they belong, companies enjoy a 56% improved job performance, 50% lower turnover risk, and 75 fewer employee sick days. And I remember working in organizations where our well-being wasn't a priority and we didn't even have those invitations. So having those invitations and knowing that it's a part of your structure in your organization in some way where they've
Yeah.
said, we care enough about our well-being and our people's well-being for them to have access to a benefit that is all about well-being, the way that Life Guides is. That matters. So I love that you had that moment, Rhakiya, to learn, okay, there are some invitations here that I need to take. And I'd love it if you could help us walk through some of these micro breaks that you and I talked about in planning this session, because I think that's a great place for us to start to have this more of a refreshing idea about breaks because some of our people might only be able to take a small micro style break if they work in call
Mhm.
centers or maybe don't have as much time. So, can you walk us through what some of those micro breaks look like?
Absolutely. So, a break is basically a 5 minute break, a 5 minute pause in your day, and you can plug it into your calendar at a time that you feel that you can benefit from it the most. Um, the goal of your micro break is can be whatever you want it to be. So the micro break could be a time to do some deep breathing. Maybe you're feeling some tension and stress in your shoulders and you just need to stop, okay? And just to refocus and relax yourself a little bit. So you just take a 5 minute break, you do your deep breathing exercises, you're refreshed, and now you can come back to your task with a new focus. Sometimes it's movement. Right now, I'm in my home office. I get in here at 8 in the morning, and sometimes it's not uncommon that I won't go out of my room until 12 in the afternoon. So maybe you just need to get up and move. So between 9 to 12, I might feel a cramp in my knee and say, I need to get some circulation going here, because this isn't benefiting anybody. If I break down, I'm going to have to take time off of work to heal myself. Who knows what I could be doing to my body. So let me get up, let me walk around, let me just take a trip down the stairs, come down or go outside on my front porch, take in some daylight, 5 minutes, and then come back in refreshed and continue with my task. So that's the premise of the micro break. And they're very, very conducive to productivity. They're very helpful and just disrupting whatever pattern that could be causing stress or anxiety in the workplace. And I recommend them highly to all of my members when we have sessions on this topic.
It sounds like to me that it's a lot about listening to your body and not
Yeah.
just pushing through with your mind. Because if you're getting that stress in your shoulders or the tick in your knee, or even you're noticing your eyes are exhausted, that's a great
Mhm.
realization that, okay, I can take a micro break. And it doesn't, sometimes we have this idea like, oh my God, I need to go do all of these things. No, maybe it's just a few moments of breathing. Maybe it's a few
That's
moments of
it.
mindfulness. Kristen said it in the chat. She puts on a tune and dances like a fool in her office. Maybe that's
I love it.
for you.
Yeah.
So there are lots of ways that we can find these micro breaks, and
Yeah.
5 minutes is more than enough. It is a great little reset and it doesn't disrupt your day, but it gets you back into the flow. So, as we're talking about these micro breaks and kind of just breaks in general that will boost our productivity overall, is there anything else that you wanted to say about micro breaks, or do you think we should move into more of the category of traditional breaks?
Just one thing about micro breaks, they can also be guided. So you can use those tools like Headspace, Calm. I think LinkedIn offers some, YouTube. You can find someone that will have a 5 minute guided break if that's what you would like. You can use it to push forward a goal because that's where you touch into that personal well being as well. So we don't want to gloss over the fact that sometimes it's not a work stressor. You may have something going on personal in your life that maybe you just don't feel you have enough time to address. So during a micro break, let's say if you're focusing on your financial well being, you could just set that 5 minutes just to think about a specific goal you want to achieve and what are the next steps towards achieving it. And that too can reduce stress and bring in a sense of calm into your day that maybe you would not normally experience because you're just pushing through and plowing through your workday. And then when you get home, you have to cook, you have to help the kids with the homework, or your spouse needs you for something. And then before you know, it's time to go to bed and you still have that on your back. So that's another good use of a micro break.
It reminds me of a baby step, especially if we're working towards our own personal goals. 5 minutes, one baby step. What's the one little thing that we can do that's going to get us to where we need to be? And I feel like
Yeah.
sometimes we overcomplicate life by thinking that everything has to be this big thing.
Yep.
But micro moments are great and baby steps are fantastic.
Yeah.
So I love that you've brought that into the conversation, and I would love for us to talk more about kind of traditional breaks, a little bit longer of time. What are some of the ways that you suggest that we use more of those longer breaks that we have?
Yes, absolutely. So, coming from a traditional work environment, typically an organization will offer you that 15-minute break in the morning, one in the morning, one in the afternoon, depending on how your organization has offered that to you. And I recommend checking your employee benefits package and just refreshing your memory on what actually you're entitled to. Because sometimes we get hired, we're all excited when we start a new job, and then we forget what we're entitled to. So look at your employee's benefit package and just be aware of the breaks that you're entitled to and the well-being benefits that come along with your role. Those 15-minute breaks, you can use them for coffee chats. And I emphasize the use of a coffee chat because in a traditional in-office environment, you get up to get your coffee or your water, you have conversations with your colleagues, you meet new people, you can brainstorm in an impromptu format about something, and ideas are sparked and synergy is created. But when you're working in a remote environment, those opportunities are few and far between. So we have to create them. And that could be challenging to some people. Where do I begin? How do I start? Um, Generally, you can set up a coffee break using your Outlook, like someone that you're interested, they can say something interesting in a meeting. I encourage people just to say, hey, hi, I thought what you said about XYZ is great. I'd like to set up a coffee chat and learn more about you and connect. You can make some good work friendships and networking in that manner. Additionally, again, you could do fitness if that's your thing. Go for a walk. Again, a guided meditation. If you prefer a longer guided meditation, you could do a 15-minute run. There are so many things that you can do with those traditional breaks. You can level up. You can speak with management. And on a human level, though, it's not about your performance. It's not about promotion or career growth. It's just, hey, how you doing? You know, um, I'd like to get to know you a little bit better and take it from there. Like I said, you take the lead from something that you heard in a meeting and then just move along. Same thing, you can level down. You can mentor someone. You can speak with an intern and find out how their progression is going and get to know things. I've learned that younger people, I'm a woman of a certain age, I don't mind saying it, but I hear that younger people have fat brains. And so people in my age group, you want to connect with the youth. You want to see things from their perspective. And it could be quite enlightening to do that. And so I enjoy doing that personally. And then there's also peer to peer. Sometimes you want to know how everyone else is experiencing the work environment and make those connections. So that's what I would recommend the traditional coffee break for.
I really appreciate this perspective because I remember not working remotely. I've been remote for about 7 years, kind of hybrid-ish when I would run retreats and things along those lines,
Mhm.
but it's mostly been me and my house and my dogs. And I remember working in a physical location and yeah, going and getting coffee and just chit-chatting with people, hearing about their day, telling them that I liked their outfit, finding out what book they're reading, finding out what they did in the weekend. And it's such a good reminder because I feel like we all do have this desire to connect more. And you can
Yeah.
drop 444 in the chat if you're realizing that that might be one of your struggles with working remote. I know it's my largest struggle, and there are a lot of pluses that override that, but there are people that I work with currently where I'm like, oh, I would love to get to know you. If you didn't live in Phoenix, we could work together, go to a coffee shop
Yeah.
together, but it's not the same. So the 15-minute break is
Mhm.
such a good reminder of the fact that we're all humans working together and we have the ability to connect with each other, even if it's not this super organic thing, even if it needs to be added into our calendar, people want to feel like they belong and they have a
Yeah.
connection. And
Yeah.
there's another thing that I did want to talk about. Before we dive into some of the narratives that people have about why they don't take some of these breaks, I also want to make sure that all of you here understand that in your organization, and again, look at your handbook, you know your role, you know if you are a contracted employee versus, or like an independent contractor versus an actual employee. You know if you are in a call center and you have a lot less free time than maybe someone who's not. But I would implore you to look at what your PTO is, what your vacation time is, and to use that to your benefit as well. Our ancestors, literally, our parents, our great grandparents, our grandparents all fought for greater working conditions, and we are the byproduct of all of that. But I have a friend who she's like, I've got corporate guilt. She goes into work sick. She was in the bathroom for 2 hours at work the other day. And I was like, girl, you need to go home. And she had this guilt that she shouldn't go home. I'm like, first of all, you have sick time for this, so you should go home. But second of all, your people don't want you to work sick. And she works in a physical location, but the same thing. I know if I have a pounding headache, and I try to push through, the work that I deliver isn't going to be the quality that's expected from me anyway. So I would
Exactly.
rather use the PTO that's been built in that everyone is expected to have and potentially use, than to make myself more ill by pushing through because that's not going to help anyone. And you have this time at your fingertips to use in the times that you need it. So I wanted to take that note. But before we go on to moving into an exercise where people can start to consider everything we've shared a little bit more, can you tell us some of those narratives that you hear from people about why they don't or can't add these breaks into their day?
Yes. A lot of the times it's anxiety, uh, and they feel anxiety because, especially working in a remote work environment, there are VPNs, maybe there's a lot of oversight on productivity in their workday. And so they feel guilty taking a break. And the quick fix for me is put it in your calendar, start there. We've already talked about the employee benefits package, just knowing what you are entitled to. The next level would be to speak with your manager or your immediate supervisor and just have an open conversation about your needs. You need to ask for what you need and what's available for you so that you can align on expectations so that you don't feel guilty when you put that break into your calendar, because first and foremost, you are aware of what you are entitled to. So it is what it is, and you are availing of that benefit. And also evaluate the mind traps that we tell ourselves. And that's a sensitive issue because sometimes it's things that we were taught as children or mottos that we've lived lived by our whole life. Work hard, play hard, so I used to have a mind trap, which is, work is work. And that's how I found my self on the hotel floor. I'm not here to invest in my well-being. I'm here to do a job. I'm getting paid to do a job, and work is work. And um, what is that thing? No pain, no gain. And I had to learn, no, if I break down, who's going to do this work? And how am I going to take care of myself if I'm unable to work? So there has to be some balance. And so I had to address that way of thinking within myself and reframe it and say, okay, no, I can't work from a half empty cup. And I know a lot of people have heard this before. I need to refill my cup first, and then I will be able to continue to deliver the outputs that are expected of me in a high performing manner. And so addressing the mind traps is very, very important. So some of it could be overgeneralization, labeling, all or nothing thinking, like you think in black and white. Like I remember I worked at a ski resort and I had just come into that resort work environment, and I would see people taking ski breaks, and I couldn't wrap my head around it for the love of God. I could not wrap my head around it. I'm like, how do they find time to go skiing? But that was how they use their well-being break. And I had to learn and figure out how to use mine. So once I wrapped my head around it, then I was like, okay, well, I'm not going skiing, but I could go for a walk. And that walk made all the difference. And these breaks, even if you're in leadership, which I was a general manager of 3 luxury hotel properties at the time. Sometimes my micro break would come right when I got into the office because I was transitioning from Rhakiya at home to Rhakiya the leader. And I would close my door for 5 minutes. I'd roll my shoulders, take some deep breaths. And when I opened that door, I was on. But that's all I needed to have a very highly functioning and productive day. And so it's up to each professional to determine what their need is and what will make them perform at an optimal level going forward.
I don't know what I would give for for a ski break in the middle of the day, but I'm gonna start considering that for the rest of my life. How do I get there? How do I get to that point? Because
Yes,
that sounds magical. But it's such an important reminder in and of itself that breaks are going to make you better. And
yes,
I have an Aura ring. It tracks my stress levels, my sleep, all of the things. Once I started teaching on stress and anxiety in the programming that we do here at LifeGuides, I started realizing I'm too stressed, way too stressed. And the more that I implement these breaks, not only I'm a better person to work with, I'm
yes,
more productive, I get more done, and at the end of the day, I feel really good. And that in and of itself is one of the greater benefits of making sure that you're taking these breaks because if I start work feeling good, if I'm in the middle of my day feeling good, and if I'm
yes,
ending my day feeling good, I like the work that I do. I like
yes,
showing up to work. Sometimes we're our own
yes.
worst enemies, and maybe, we're stressed out not because of the work itself, but because of how we relate to the work as well. So, Rhakiya, we are coming to the end of our session. We have about a minute left before I have to outro us. Do you have any final comments, suggestions, maybe like one actionable tip that someone could walk away with today where they could start making a little bit of change?
Like I said, start small, and you said something that prompted a thought. Listen to your devices. We all have these devices on. My watch, my Apple Watch tells me when to stand up. My car, if I'm taking a long distance drive, tells me when I need a coffee break. Start small. Accept an invitation. Accept a notification. There might be someone who might want to offer you a coffee break. Say yes and find out how to create your own. And that's
So
it.
beautiful. I love that. That's such good reminders.
Yeah.
And just we have the notifications everywhere. We might as
Yep.
well listen to them. You can set an alarm on your phone that says, "Deep breathe, Kira."
Yep.
And it'll help you get to where you need to go, not only for yourself, but for your family, for the people that you work alongside, for the company that you work with.
Absolutely.
I know it's my responsibility every single day to show up in my greatest capacity. So I take my well-being seriously because I
Mhm.
wouldn't be able to show up as a bubbly, fun, good host for all of these sessions if I was sleep deprived, if I was dehydrated, and if I was stressed out. So it's my responsibility and I take it that way. So, thank you all so much for being here for Motivational Monday. It is so lovely to have you. I'm going to drop Rhakiya's Life Guides profile in the chat once again for you. If you really liked her wisdom and advice and you wanted to dive deeper with her into how to develop more of a balanced, productive, supportive work routine, Rhakiya is a great guide to be able to support you on that journey to making remote work maybe a little bit more fun than it currently is because balancing working from home is a big one. So we will see you next week. We've got the last motivational Monday of the month because we have a holiday coming up on a Monday, but we'll be talking about how to stay disciplined while we're working remotely. Thank you all so, so much for being here. It's always a pleasure and a delight to have you. If you would like to leave any love letters for Rhakiya, there's a survey that pops up at the end, and there's a little box where you can say, Rhakiya was amazing, and I'll make sure that she gets it. Thank you all so much for having us, and we will talk to you next Monday. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.